everyone. Welcome. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Reminder to turn off your cell phones if you have them on. The meeting documents are for review in that binder down at the end next to Commissioner Karski. And Carol is here and has listening devices if anyone needs one of those. So first item is to consider a motion to approve the agenda. Is there anyone that needs to make any changes to the agenda? We have a number of items on the consent agenda.
Move
This
to
would be
approve
the
the
time.
agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. Item number 2 is to consider a motion to approve commission meeting minutes from March 21st, 2017.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next item, item number 3 is bills to be paid in the amount of $495,668.12.
Pay the bills.
Second with the comment.
Okay, motion and a second. Comment?
My comment would be just it's kind of an awareness thing, is that there was between $700 and $800 worth of dental bills for the JDC, and that when we have young folks in custody, that is something that they look at, not only their medical status, but they also look at their teeth, and that happens in the jail too. So.
Commissioner Barth?
Madam Chair, today's bills include $1,166, which is part of the cost of sending me to the NACO conference in Washington, D.C. We had over 7 bills for over $1,000 for attorneys in the court systems, including a bill for over 4 and $1,000 and a bill for over 3. We had $36,000 for CBM, catering by Marlins, feeding our people in our custody, and $180,000 for E911 transfer fees. And we had 4 funerals last week. We had 1 this week at $2,000.
Gives you a perspective on the variety of things that the county is responsible for. So thank you. Any other comments? Not. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Next items, item 4, reports. There are none. Item 5, personnel actions. I'd consider a motion to approve the routine personnel actions.
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Item 6, notices and requests. There are none. Item 7 is the planning and zoning notices. First reading and to authorize the auditor to publish notice of hearing on April 25th, 2017 on the 2017 drainage notice ordinance. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning, Scott Anderson, County Planning Director. And this morning, I'm bringing forth a request to publish a hearing notice for April 25th. This would be for the replacement drainage ordinance. For those at home and in the audience and here, I will remind everyone that last week we set a hearing date of April 18th to potentially we will have a hearing to potentially repeal our existing drainage ordinance. This would be the replacement ordinance, which is a notification of neighbors and providing the information back to the county of tiling work that is done. So I'm asking that we set the hearing date of April 25th and authorize the auditor to publish the hearing notice of the hearing. And I provided you also the proposed replacement ordinance just for your review. So my request is to set the hearing date of April 28th at 9 a.m. here in this room.
April 25th.
Sorry, April 25th. Yes, sorry.
Madam Chair, I'd make a motion to authorize the auditor to publish this notice.
Second with a question.
Okay, motion and a second. Commissioner Karski?
What's the effective date? I'm kind of looking for it.
Well, the effective date we can vary. And that was sort of my intent. 1 week we'll replace it, and then hopefully we will my intent is that we will have the effective date on the repeal and the replacement all on the same date. And I've been working with the state's attorney's office. They've indicated that's something we can do. We just will structure it that way when we have the hearings. The first hearing and the second hearing, will make them effective on the same day.
Okay, so the first hearing, okay, so there'll be two more here. We just set the first hearing, we got the second hearing after
Yes.
that for, okay.
Yep, we'll have a hearing on the repeal first,
Yep.
and then we will make that effective. If that goes through, I'll schedule it so it's effective, the repeal on the same day that we would make this replacement effective.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Item A is petition for compromise of liens. There are none. It takes us to our consent agenda. This is a little bit unusual for us, but we had a number of abatements that we needed to consider this week and elderly freezes. And so I would consider a motion to approve all the items on the consent agenda.
Make a motion to approve consent agenda items A through O.
Second?
Motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Thank you. So that moves us like 4 pages forward. And takes us to the opportunity for public comment. Is there any public comment this morning? Good morning.
Good morning, members of the commission. My name is Jason Ball. I'm the new president of the Sioux Falls Area Chamber of Commerce, and wanted to use your public comment period just to come by, say hello, introduce myself, answer any questions you might have. I've been making appearances at several leading organizational bodies such as this, just to make sure that people know who I am, where to reach me if you have questions from the chamber's perspective on anything.
Any questions?
Just a comment. I appreciate the fact that we were on the list of places to come and meet all the commissioners. So thank you for taking time out this morning.
Commissioner Karski?
You had a chance to work with Jason a lot, and it's been great. Several different committees, his perspective and his insight has been fantastic. So I know his family just moved to town, so welcome to you and to your family to Sioux Falls.
Thank you. Yes, I've been on the ground for 2 days. We've been tourists in our own town for the past 48 hours and enjoying it. So now I'm back to work today.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for stopping by this morning and
Thank
welcome.
you so much. I appreciate that.
Any other public comment?
Good morning. Reynold Neseba from District 15 State Senate. Just to tell you that we really did wrap up yesterday, so you don't have to be nervous that we're not taking away your alcohol revenue that the legislature gave you last year, and that we're not going to, at least at the moment, not be billing you for replacement of the state radio system, which is an ongoing concern that I hope that we find a solution for. And like Mr. Ball, just saying good morning, and if you need to be in touch with me, I'm just trying to build those relationships between the state legislature and county commission, and so if I can be helpful to you, here I am. You have any good questions for me this morning?
Madam Chair.
Yes,
Senator, thank you for coming today, because we're not often blessed by members of the legislature, and it's been said previously that before anyone is elected to the legislature, they ought to serve as a county commissioner, and I think that you're having a run for county commission and sat through numerous meetings probably gives you insight into our issues that your fellows may not have, and so I appreciate you being here, and I think it's to your credit that you are here.
Well, thank you. After spending a legislative term on the Appropriations Committee, I also have a new appreciation for what you all go through when you go through budget hearings. So, so keep up the good work. Thanks.
See you again.
Thank you very much for coming by. Any other public comment? All right, if not, we will move to the next item on the agenda. It's item 10, public hearing to consider a petition to vacate a portion of the statutory right-of-way located on a portion of County Highway 149, 464th Avenue between East 2nd Street and South Dakota Highway 38 in Hartford Township. David.
Good morning. Kevin Hookman, County Planning Department. As you see coming up on the screen here, this is a proposed road vacation for a highway realignment as the county highway is now being realigned to make a right angle with the State Highway 38. I have a resolution prepared for the commission. I guess I can read that if there's any questions before I read that.
Go ahead.
So the resolution, whereas the public hearing was held on March 28th, 2017, pursuant to the provisions of South Dakota Codified Law 3136 and South Dakota Codified Law 3137 to consider a petition to vacate a statutory right-of-way, and whereas said hearing was for the purpose of determining whether the public interest will be better served by such proposed vacation, and whereas the board finds the right-of-way proposed to be vacated does not provide access to public lands, now therefore be it resolved and ordered by Minnehaha County Board of Commissioners that the following described statutory right-of-way is hereby declared vacated. And I guess, should I read through the whole description? It's pretty lengthy.
Commissioner Karski?
Just a question. I'm glad to see we're doing this. It only makes sense to have the right angles at the corner like that. But who gets that land then to the, what would it be, the west of that corner where the cemetery is? Who maintains that and takes care of that if we vacate that?
Who will take the land post-vacation? Is that what you're asking?
Correct.
The land will be reverted to the adjacent landowner. So half of the land will go to the cemetery, and the other half will go the other direction, the adjacent landowner there.
Any other questions for Kevin?
I don't think you need to read that whole big long description. That's really long.
Yeah.
All right, so this is a public hearing. Is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this motion to vacate? Anyone here that would like to oppose it? All right, doesn't appear that this is overly controversial. I'd entertain a motion to approve the petition to vacate.
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. That takes us to item 11. And there's a recommendation to deny 4 different applications for abatement. Diane.
Good morning, Commissioners. Diane Reckma, Equalization Office. The first abatement I have is for record ID 52938 at 701 South Garfield. This is for the 2015 property taxes in the amount of $1,598.81. The request for tax exempt status for 2014 payable in 2015 was not made until December of 2016.
Okay. I think we'll take these one at a time. Is there anyone here that would like to speak on this item?
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Diane, had they had a tax exempt status prior to that, or no?
No, they had not. This was brought up at the county equalization boards last year, and they have been granted exempt status since.
Okay.
Commissioner
I
Heiberger?
think the issue with this is that this is payable taxes in 2015, and we are not allowed to go back and refund taxes that have already been paid. I mean, that would be going to the school districts and asking for a refund. That'd be going to the city and asking for a refund, and it would be going to the county and asking. And we're not capable of doing that. And so, if it's already past tax date, you can't do anything about it. Am I correct, Diane?
You actually can go back for 5 years.
Oh, you can.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Any other questions on this one?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Barth?
So what is their, what is the tax exempt status that they're, are they using this property for?
It's right now, it's a house being used as a church.
What was that answer? I'm sorry.
It's a house that's being used as a church.
Okay.
Was it used as a church at the time that we did the assessments?
What they're asking for, yes, they just failed to apply for exempt application.
Any other questions? I'd entertain a motion on this one.
Madam Chair, I just am debating the issue in my head here, and I know that one of my predecessors, who's now a judge, once said that don't let the law stand in the way of justice. And I'm concerned that maybe the just thing would be if they were in fact doing what we hope that nonprofits do with the property, that maybe we should consider giving them that break.
Commissioner Heiberger?
So if we can go back 5 years, why are we denying it? And he was, and this was actually this house was being used as a church.
I'm denying it because they didn't fill out the application until 2016.
Okay. But we are able to go back 5 years, and they were using it as a church.
Well, the previous year they were, yeah.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Barth?
I think that our staff is not able to make that kind of a decision.
Exactly.
And so I will make a motion to grant the RD1D for property 52938 request for that exemption or for that break for 1598.81.
I'll second it.
Just to be clear, in my mind, you're granting the motion to abate the tax?
Yep.
Okay, so there's a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. All right, thank you.
The second one is ID 87892 at 9000 West Dragonfly. He did not apply for owner occupied before the deadline. He is also asking for a refund of $2,203.60 for the 2016 taxes. He has since applied for the owner occupied.
Any questions for Diane? Is there anyone here to speak on this item? Okay, any questions for Diane on this one? Commissioner Heiberger?
And is this basically the same as the last one? He did have owner occupied status, but just didn't fill out the paperwork? And this one go
Right,
back
this
5
was a new
years?
property that was built and they did not fill out the owner occupied until this year.
Okay. And does he meet within the 5 years? Does this also apply with the 5-year status?
Yeah.
If I may,
Commissioner Karski?
just from reading their application, was there an issue with mail or something? Can you explain what happened there? I'm a little fuzzy on this one.
I have no idea. This is actually a state program. We do send out letters in January. Our appraisers take applications with them when they're doing new construction. It's posted in the paper. I don't know what else we can do.
Commissioner Barth?
Diane, do you know if they built it themselves? Because usually if you have a realtor and stuff, then they tell you about the
Right.
owner occupied.
And that I don't know.
And I know from my wife's, one of her part-time occupations is they do loan closings, and I believe they're fairly well informed at the
Right.
time of closing on their loan.
Title companies also go through it with you too.
This is a tough one, just because, I mean, the owner occupied should have been there, and it seems like people have every opportunity to apply for it. That being said, I'm going to make a motion to do the abatement of $2,203.60 for RDID 87892.
I'll second it with a comment.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Commissioner Heiberger?
I think it's a discussion that we need to have again at some point, because we do have deadlines for these, and I know that we have in the past sometimes skirted over a little bit on those, because I remember doing them. But I think we need to figure out, are we going to go back 5 years on these, or how many years are we? I mean, I guess if that's the law, it's the law. So, but we do need to have a conversation on this. We have tax assessments coming up here pretty soon for the county. So with that, I did second the motion.
Okay. Any further discussion? Commissioner Park?
You know, I think this is an example of where maybe we could communicate with our citizens better by explaining these kinds of issues with, for example, a Different Voices piece in Del Rapids, Garrettson, Hartford, Sioux Falls newspapers, and just give the citizens a little boost in their understanding of this, because it seems to come up often.
Commissioner Heiberger?
Another thought might be the application be in a different colored paper, like a red or a green or something, so that when they get their stack of papers at their closings, that this stands out that you need to do this and don't shovel this away with everything else. So just a thought. I don't know who prints those papers and if they're given to them at closings, but if they are, then maybe they need to be a different color paper so they stand out. Just a thought.
Anything else? We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item C. Diane?
Okay, the next one is ID 77844 Susan Weir at 48255 26th Street, Garrettson. This is also an owner that did not apply for an owner-occupied status by the deadline 2016. And with your permission, they request to speak with you. They are here.
All right, thank you. When you come up, if you could just identify yourselves with your name and your address, please.
I'm Susie Weir, and that address is wrong. It's 48255 256th Street, Garrettson.
256.
256.
John Weir, same address.
And I pre-apologize. I'm not a public speaker. I cried at a toothbrush commercial the other day. So, I guess we're here to dispute that we never filled out our owner-occupied thing. And I see on the thing, it says for 2016. I guess we've lived there since 2006. And I guess I'm pretty upset that we were not aware of this. I heard her say, you know, there was, it's in the paper, it's in the everything or whatever. We found out about this because we're in the Garrettson School District. Garrettson last fall had a vote about their schools.
Madam Chair, make sure to use the microphone.
Their school either closing or else a tax increase for the next 5 years. And so we actually opened enrolled into Brandon because we farm south of Brandon. We do everything south of Brandon. We eventually hope to move closer to Brandon and we're 1 mile into the Garrettson School District. We want to be in the Brandon School District. So we talked about it and we decided not to vote because if our children went to Garrettson, we would like everybody to vote yes and pay the extra taxes so our school stayed open. So everybody kind of said, oh, if the tax passes, it will be about $300 to $600 per year, a tax increase. So we said, okay, what it is what it is. It passed. We got our taxes this year, and it says it went up almost $1,100, over $1,100. So we're like, oh my God, we didn't think it would be that much. So fortunately, our neighbor is my husband's uncle. So the next day he called him and he said, I can't believe I don't hear you screaming about your taxes because your house is valued way more than ours is. And he said, well, I got it yesterday, but I haven't looked at it. He opened it up and he's like, $400, that isn't too bad. And he said, $400, what, that's crazy. Ours went up over $1,100. So then we looked at the appeal system. My husband is actually on the township board. He works for us also. But anyways, he went to the township board. They said, yes, this is not correct. They said the next appeal is bring it to equalization. So we brought it in, and they pretty much told us that, well, I guess you fell through the cracks. And if you sign this, you know, your taxes can get reduced for next year. It's too late for this year. He did ask, he said, what about the past years and everything? And, well, where were we supposed to get this form from? And they said, well, when you bought your house, your realtor should have given it to you. We bought land in 2004, and we never got anything. We built a house in 2006, and I talked to our title company, And our title company says since we owned the land, they did not close on our house like a normal closing. They closed on it as a refi. So they refied the land and the house together. I talked to our gal who helped us with it, and I don't know. But I just feel that this is unfair. And then
We've
my...
paid above and beyond for 10 years.
For 10
is
years,
basically
a
what
lot
we're saying
above
here.
and beyond. And when my husband went in to talk to him, they said, well, on your tax form that you should get, it should say, you know, that you don't live there. I brought in our tax forms that we receive yearly. Yes, granted, you said, we send it out one time. They did tell us, and I got a copy of it from them. In January of 2007, they sent us one letter. Thank you, I appreciate it. I don't even know if we had a mailbox at that time yet. I don't know if we threw it away. I am not sure. But what happens every year when we get our bill? Why does it not say, why would I not think I live in my house? Because I've lived there for 10 years. How would I know that I missed the deadline last year? I should go say I live in my house now. I didn't move, there was no change, there was nothing. Why doesn't it say it on these forms?
There is everything else from Minnehaha County, from our Minnehaha County Treasurer for motor vehicles, has our address on it. Planning and zoning, I built a grain bin. I guess I did not consider it to be a structure, you know, as a building type. I got that I was not in compliance with building. They sent it to 48255, 256th Street, John and Susan Weir. Everybody
And they
rest knows
said,
that we
yes,
live there.
and that is the county finding us and saying, hey, you didn't pay a building permit, you need to pay that. So we have proof right here. It doubled, so we had to pay a fine above and beyond. And we got that notice on November 28th, and we went in and paid it on December 6th, which I feel is a very good time frame to go and pay a late bill. I feel that if we would have known about this on our 2007 taxes, when it came out and said, do you live here? Do you rent this out? Do you do anything, you know? We would have came in and paid it, or we would have came in and filled out this form. We would have been here 10 years ago instead of 11 years ago, or, you know, later, now fighting to try and get 1 year. I mean, I heard you talking about your kids before. We could have used that money to take them to Omaha to the zoo.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming this morning. And I know there's a couple of different issues. We've got the issue for sure for this year that we can address. And I know you've raised issues about prior years. And I would just defer to Kirsten to explain that process to you a little bit.
Sure. As we talked about, the limitation here under the law is to go back 5 years. So that's the authority that the commission has today to consider the abatement.
Okay.
Beyond that, it would be beyond this proceeding, and
Okay.
you know, I'm under some ethical obligations as a lawyer just to tell you that if you have other questions about what the other years, what legal effect that has, you can either consult the statutes yourself or consult private counsel for
Okay.
that. So
Okay, thank you. Any questions for the Weirs?
Just
Cindy?
a
Commissioner
comment, and I could
Everett.
be wrong, is I think that our tax bills are are printed by the state, and Diane could answer that. So if they are, it's the state that has the wrong address, but I don't know
I
if
don't
that's
know.
right.
I don't know that.
Diane, can you just give me a shake of a head or anything? Is it, sorry, printed by, where are those tax forms printed at?
They're printed in the treasurer's office.
Okay, so
And
we
they
do
use
have
the
one
same
address wrong.
addresses as we do in our office.
Okay, so we have one
we have
address
the
wrong.
same
Okay,
addresses.
so we will correct that.
Right. And I would also, if I could make another comment, Mr. Weir said he was on the township board. I give training classes to the township boards in all the small towns, and at that time, I go through that form. I just wanted you to know that. Also, this is a state program. I want you to remember that. We send the letters out as a courtesy because we've had so many problems.
Commissioner Karski?
First of all, Good job, Susan. You did a good job.
I have one more comment too when it's my turn, if I can.
Is our only course of action today based on this, and this question for Kirsten, based on this one application? If they want to apply, they have to apply, and then we consider them separately, or are we allowed to go more than that?
Maybe I don't understand.
We can only
question.
consider this 1 year, we can't consider all 5?
No, I think you can go up to 5 years.
Off this one action? Okay.
My understanding with the request, as it was phrased before, is whether you could go back to 2006, and it's my opinion, reading our statutes, that in this proceeding, you can only go back 5 years, so.
Okay.
Yeah, Commissioner Heiberger?
A question, if, when the county goes back more than a year like that, and like I said, the money is distributed to the different entities, and so are those,
Clawed back?
yes.
Yes, they are. In fact, it doesn't apply in this case, I don't believe, because you're out in the township. But I will say that the other ones that are in a municipality, I believe there's some requirements for concurrence too. So I just want to be clear on the record today that I think there's some, you have to consult the city on that or whatever municipality that is. I don't think that applies here because it's outside a municipality, but just add that to the conversation since that's, but yes, those amounts would be clawed back.
Okay.
Any other?
I do have one more thing. I know Diane mentioned that when on the township, they go over those, and that is fine. She may have gone over that. But I guess my point is, he's been on the township for 3 years now? This is your 4th year? 3 years ago. So that's still 7, 8 years ago when we built our house. Do you remember every paper that we signed? No. We did not know we were getting screwed on our taxes, excuse my French, but we did not know we were getting screwed on our taxes. And if the Garrettson thing would have never passed, we would have continued to keep paying because we are just good citizens and we keep paying our bills. We did not know. And it doesn't tell us every year, do you live here? Even if we rented out our house and decided to move back in it, it wouldn't say, hey, did you move back into your house now? I mean, that's part of my point is that if this Garrettson school thing would have never passed, we would have continued to pay way above and beyond our taxes because we didn't know.
Commissioner Heiberger?
No, I was
Oh,
just
I'm sorry.
commenting.
Well, I just was going to say that, I certainly appreciate your presentation, and I think you're going to be okay with things as we go forward, but there's no way that our staff knows where you live exactly. We have an address. There are thousands of properties that people own where they don't live there. There are there are probably many that are getting the homeowner's exemption where they don't live anymore. And, we often have people that, I recall one where they built a solar collection facility and called in complaining forcefully with rough language that they weren't getting their tax break on their solar installation. Well, it turned out they had never gotten a building permit. We didn't know they had a solar installation. And again, our staff doesn't know where you live. We have an address that we send mail. That's all we know. And keep in mind that, we're always looking to improve our processes, but we don't know everything that's going on. And so this is the way that we try to fix things, though, is where we get together with the bumps in the road and move forward. So thank you.
Any further comments?
I have a motion.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion.
And before I make the motion, thank you, Commissioner. No system's perfect. And Diane and her staff do a great job. They're probably about 30% understaffed, but they do as best they can, and they work well within the confines of the law. It's our job to make the changes. So, thank you, Diane, and your staff for what you do, because you guys do a great job. And I've known that for 26, 27 years that I've been coming into the courthouse. My motion is to refund the full 5 years that we can go back. I think it's the right thing to do.
I'll second that. I agree. I think it's the right thing to do. You didn't even come in here asking for 5 years. You only came in asking for 1 year. I don't think you're somebody that I see at my podium every single year is telling me your abatements are way too high on your house. And I appreciate that too, because nobody likes their abatement, or not their abatements, but their assessments when they come, because they always seem too high. But you guys are not regulars at our podium either, and so I concur with, I think 5 years is the right thing to do.
Madam Chair, point of clarification then, Mr. Karski, your motion would refund the difference between their full tax bill and the homeowner's exemption, right?
For the owner-occupied exemption, correct, sir?
Thanks.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Christmas present early.
Yeah, thanks.
We have one more. Diane.
One more, the last one, ID 24637, Jesus Only Apostolic Church at 1926 Burnside Street. They are asking for the 2016 property taxes in the amount of $17,311.06. This was brought up last year at the county equalization meeting. This was formerly the Moose Lodge. At that time, it was for sale and not being used for its intended purposes, and therefore we put a value on, thus creating a tax bill. Matthew is here from the church and is requesting to speak with you on this.
Thank you. Matthew, if you could come forward, just your full name and address, please.
My name is Matthew Sanksawona, so I'm coming for the 1926 Burnside property. You want my personal address?
Yes.
I am in Sioux Falls. So 6900, I think it's South Pine Lake Drive, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. I'm just coming before you today to ask for abatement for the church property. We did occupy it all of 2016. We went through the purchase of it this year, and then obviously we applied for the abatement a few months after that. Just speaking with the equalization during the year, I guess my understanding when first we got it in September is when we officially bought it, but we were in the building all year long. It wasn't the Moose Lodge was a nonprofit. Then obviously it's transferred to us as a nonprofit. So the concern of it being in kind of nonprofit status was not a concern at the time. So that's essentially, then we got the bill. We applied for it next year, obviously, already. And then we got this bill, then asked for the abatement for the previous year. I guess I guess during 2016, it was used regularly for church services, Sunday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. They also ran a co-op school out of it, Monday through Thursday, a food bank. So I guess part of that intended purpose, I guess, of being a nonprofit, it fulfills that requirement, I guess, in my opinion, during the year of 2016. I guess I can answer any questions you have.
Any questions for Matthew? Commissioner Heiberger?
I have a comment, just because this is also very confusing, and part of
Yes.
this is we had this whole huge discussion at the Board of Equalization last year about this particular property, and we reached out to them, and no response that they were a nonprofit. Probably not you, but to the
the
Moose
Moose,
Lodge,
yeah.
and that there was, so it was very, because I remember having this
Yeah.
very long conversation about what this building was.
And
it
part of
was-
the reason it took so long for even us to purchase the building was because of the disarrayment on the Moose Lodge side. It was ran by a board, and obviously they're an organization that was in dissolution. I mean, they're going to start up in another area, so I could see why it would be hard to communicate with them. I can speak a little bit on their behalf if you have any questions about the Moose Lodge.
I don't know what to think.
I mean, they still held regular meetings there, but as far as communication, it was probably poor. I would agree.
Are there any other questions for Matthew?
When
Not,
did-
I'd entertain a motion. Oh, Commissioner
When did you
Heiberger.
guys start meeting in there?
The church,
Yeah.
November of 2015, actually.
But at that time, you didn't own the building, right?
No, not at that time. We weren't the owners, right?
So it was a building that was for sale that you were in,
Yep.
and
So, I'm sorry.
the
Go ahead.
people selling it then, they were, expecting to get money for it, right?
Right. So I was part of the Moose Lodge. I was one of the members of the Moose Lodge, so that's how I knew that essentially we had our goals as nonprofits aligned. Basically, the Moose Lodge's goal, one of their goals, was to reach out to children and to elderly people. So, as being part of the church, I said, that we run a school. Can we use the building essentially during this selling process? Then obviously the church moved into the building. They liked the building and they decided to purchase the building, and they put an offer in. I believe it was February of 2016 to get more or less to purchase that building at that time.
So when I'm sorry, Madam Chair, may I?
Yes, sorry.
When the building was sold, was there not tax due on the property at that time? And during that, doesn't the title company take in the taxes that are due?
Yeah, so our understanding at the time was that the Moose was in nonprofit status, and that we were in nonprofit status, so the taxes we took in were for a nonprofit trade, more or less. Does that make sense?
Can we ask Diane that question?
Certainly. Diane?
Diane, can you talk about the nonprofit status between the Moose and, when did we drop it off the Moose and when did we, because I remember this conversation,
Right,
but I don't
we
remember.
dropped it
thoroughly.
off at the County Board of Equalization last year, so that generated the tax bill. The property was sold in September of 2016 to TTT Investment Company. At that time, they contacted us, and we told them that as an investment company, they would not qualify as exempt. So they quitclaimed it over in December of 2016 to the church.
Did they have nonprofit status at the Moose Lodge
Previously to last year, yes.
until, for 2015 they did, but they
Right,
did not,
and-
as the Moose
and-
Lodge, have it for 2016.
Yeah, and we did contact, we tried calling them, and we also sent them a letter, so, because we made them aware of our meeting at the County Board of Equalization, in case they wanted to appear.
Sure. I'm just confused on dates. It seems like we're not talking about a whole year, we're only talking about months, or is that, I know 15 taxes are payable in 16, and 16 are
Well-
payable in 17. What year taxes are we talking about here?
We're talking about 16,
16 payable
or
in 17.
17 taxes,
Okay,
payable in 17.
Yes, so
I
the
think
2016 taxes payable in 17.
Right.
And you took occupancy of the building in December, right?
Well, we were in the building in November.
When did you take possession of it? When
We
did you
took
start?
possession in September.
You own the building in September.
Yep.
And the investment company owned the building from when to when?
September to December.
And I can explain that if there's a question. So the church couldn't purchase the building.
Yeah,
Oh, go ahead.
Please use the microphone.
Oh, sorry. The church couldn't purchase the building on its own in September. So we, the investment company, which is actually the business that I run, financed the building for the church. And so hence the bank had to put it in the investment company's name. And then we worked it out so that we could more or less give it to the church, because it's not something we pay. The church pays for everything in the building, the bills, everything.
Commissioner Heiberger?
Kirsten has a comment on that.
And maybe I can I think where the confusion is going in, and maybe Diane can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a snapshot date where basically equalization says on this date, what is the status, use, ownership of the property for determining the next taxation year, and I think that date fell within that
Right, and
investment
that
ownership.
date
That's
is-
the issue here.
That date is November 1st.
Right.
Also, to apply for exempt status, that date is also November 1st.
So I think that explains your confusion about the partial. It seems like a partial year, but that's where that snapshot was taken, and now that's the decision before you.
Commissioner Heiberger?
Right.
I have one more for Diane. Diane, so they would have applied for exempt status in 2015 or 2016? If they'd applied
They
in
applied in
2015.
2016. That will be brought to you before the County Board of Equalization this year.
No, but I mean, to have their taxes exempt for 2016, which we're looking at paying in 2017, they would have had to apply for tax exempt status by November of 2015. So,
Well, and they couldn't have because it was still in the Moose's
Right.
name.
That's what so it would actually, they're a whole year late in applying
Right.
for the tax
Right.
exempt status for.
Right.
Which she said that we couldn't apply for because obviously we weren't the moose at the time.
You were renters.
Right.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to ask Commissioner Heiberger. Cindy, didn't we have a case where a property was given to a person for artist's retreat, like 22 acres along the Big Sioux River, and then they wanted us to forgive the
Taxes, and we did not.
and we did not.
And we did not.
And so, if this had been a traditional transfer, Kirsten, going through, if they had not quit claimed it, wouldn't the property tax been an issue during the closing and stuff?
Without seeing all the documentation for the case, I guess I don't know that, but the quitclaim deed was from TTT to the church.
Yes, that had nothing to do with the moose transfer. So that was from the TTT to the church. So because we had financed it, obviously, the bank had required us to put it in our name. After the closing, I did approach the bank about how we could transfer it over to the church, with them still being okay with it and not trying to call like a due on, transfer clause. And they said the way that we could do that was through a quit claim deed, is my understanding.
Okay, so there are kind of two issues here. I think the ownership of TTT, a for-profit entity,
Sure.
was the ownership at that snapshot date. I think the other issue that Diane may have alluded to, but is kind of lurking also in the background, is up until that transfer date, you can look at what the use of the building was, and I think the reason equalization initially denied it here is probably because the previous ownership, the Moose Lodge, my understanding was it wasn't operating.
Right, so they didn't
actively
run
as
the
such.
they didn't run the bar anymore. They still were giving money to their organization. They were still having weekly meetings out there.
Right.
Now it wasn't running as what it was before, as a more or less they raised monies through sales of alcohol and so on and so forth and fellowship. And I guess that's why it's a complex situation, and hence the reason I'm here. And I only bring it up because in my thought is that I think the issue, or one of the issues, is was it being used for nonprofit reasons during the year of 2016? And that's why I'm here. I can confirm that was the case. It was not only for one thing, but a cornerstone of nonprofit things with a school and a church and a food bank program coming out of there. And the only people, I guess, only organization right now being brought to with the tax bill is not Moose Lodge at all. It's the church, which is the people who used it during that year. So that's why I'm here before you.
If I may,
Go ahead.
one more question.
Yep.
So when that previous year, when it was either with the Moose Lodge or then with TTT later, was the church paying rent to those entities to use it?
So up until February, when they put the offer in for the building, yes, they were paying a rent till then. Yes. Then obviously after that, the purchase of the building was like the purchase of the building.
So if I may, just one more comment, I promise.
Yes.
I'm done. So really, when we look at what is the use of a property under the law, here what the applicant is telling you, it was used as a church. However, the use of the owner arguably was as a
Rental.
income-producing property. So that's what you're left with. Certainly, it's within your decision what to do today, but I just kind of want to tease that out so we understood how that went.
No, and I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And just for the year, that was only till February.
Okay.
So
Yep.
if that helps in the decision-making process or not.
I see a lot of puzzled faces.
I'll be quiet.
Is there anybody that's at a point where they're ready to make a motion?
I guess if I could have just one more question.
Yes, sir.
And thank you, Kirsten, for the comments. And, an investor, when they have an income-producing property, they base that income on, all the underlying expenses, where the property tax is assumed to be at a nonprofit level or at the regular tax rate is the question. I don't know if that question can be answered.
When you ask on the investment question, what's your question?
The question is, when you were you paying rent to the investment company?
Oh, okay, so never to the investment company. No, I think, so
You only paid rent to the Moose Lodge,
only to the Moose Lodge in basically January.
and you never paid rent to the investment.
Never paid rent to the investment company. No, the investment company never got a penny from it. It went from basically the church paid the bank for the loan the investment company had, and then once we figured that out, obviously we made the transfer accordingly so that the church could. Well, they still pay it, I guess. There's no other way.
Will this, I don't know if it's a fair question or not, but I mean, does this create a hardship for the church?
Vastly, a huge hardship. Yes.
Create a
very.
hardship for anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, but yeah, definitely. I mean, the church organization only runs off of charity from the people that partition it. Yeah, it's not an income producing church or any sort. And hence I'm here because it's only person that's being. I mean, my company, the investment company, is not being punished, but the church itself is obviously. It's a lot of money for us. I mean, we fight tooth and nail just to pay what we have now.
I'm not really sure where I'm going. I'll throw out an idea, and I'm not really sure I'm even on board with this idea, but we could also prorate it, and it would only, give them 9 months instead of a full year. And taxes are payable for part of it, but I don't know if we can do that, and I don't even know if I'm in favor of that.
Can we prorate it?
I don't think I've ever had this question before. That's a good question.
Because my thought is when they were paying rent, it would not be nonprofit, and when it's owned by a third party or whatever, it wouldn't have been nonprofit. And so I just don't know if the months that they weren't paying rent and it wasn't owned by another party, should we defer it, Harrison, and find out some more information?
Yeah, I think you have authority to do a partial abatement. I would be clear on the record what the basis is for you doing that, if it's a certain transfer date or whatever that is, so if the decision needs to be reviewed, it can be, so we understand what the rationale is. I don't believe there's anything that I'm seeing in my quick review here that prevents a partial abatement, but I would defer to the experts from the departments too if they have a different conclusion.
Commissioner Heiberger?
Thing is, I mean, if we did decide to defer it, and I'm not suggesting that either, is that we would find out. I would like to have documentation of when the rents were paid and what the dates were for the transfers and purchase and all that kind of stuff. But that's only if we decided to defer it.
And it does say you can approve or reject in whole or in part. I would interpret that language in the abatement statute as in part means proration would be allowed.
Do you have a specific dollar amount?
No, I don't.
Commissioner?
No,
Okay.
I don't. I'm just throwing out
And just a
ideas.
suggestion, maybe, if I may, is if we're just going along her lines of thinking, if we want to do a proration of everything, basically, obviously paying for-profit status, or because it was rented to us in January and February, and then doing a proration of the nonprofit, whatever the difference is between profit and nonprofit between March and December. I can't say that's not fair. That sounds fair.
I think the only other one I would throw in there is when it was sold by the Moose Lodge to the whatever you call it, agency. I don't think that can be construed as nonprofit, just even though that they were transferring it. So then it would be September and October and November. But I would want some dates, I think, to figure it out.
Just talking, but
Go ahead, Kirsten.
I think we're talking about year 2016 only. I mean, you're
Yeah.
talking,
Yeah.
okay, all right. Just clarifying there.
So 10 months is what you're saying that?
I can't disagree with Mr. Kirsten about the being a for-profit because we did pay rent. I understand that. I'm not on.
If we figure 10 months of the $17,311. The abatement would be $14,425.88.
Commissioner Karski, what would it be if you took out September, October, and November? Because they didn't transfer, it was actually owned by a profit from September, October, and November.
Just to be clear,
I
I
did
believe
2
it wasn't
months.
transferred until December 1st.
That's what she's
wasn't
referring
So
to.
there'd only be 1 month if you're going by the transfer date from the
That is
investment
profit, right? I
company
mean,
to
I
the
was
church.
meaning to take those 3 dates out, September, so yeah, it would only be 1
So-
month.
And
so
just sticking with
September to
what I
November
was saying
wouldn't-
earlier is like the investment company didn't take any money, didn't take any rent at that time or anything of that nature. So that's why I like that the end of February, the 10-month number that the commissioner sent out there is because basically at that point I don't think it can be construed for, at least not as far as money transfer is concerned, for used for a non or for profit status. We're not nobody's making any money on it, and it was clearly not clearly, it was being used for church and school and so on and so forth.
Commissioner Heiberger.
My only concern would be, and I'm just talking fluidly, but my only concern would be that since it was bought for profit, am I going to have another business that come back and said, well, I only use this room just for, Cub Scouts and so you shouldn't be taxing me for this square footage, but the rest of my building. And even if they weren't, it's still owned by a profitable company. So that's where my heartburn is on those couple of months where, sorry, I'm just trying to be fair to everybody else.
No, and just to kind of maybe help with that is every interest that the investment company had is we gave to the church. So wouldn't be like, I don't think a Cub Scout company could come and say, hey, we gave these 500 square feet we used for just a Cub Scout type of thing. Now if they came in and said, hey, we gave this whole building to the Cub Scouts, then I could see how maybe those two would blend, but not for just like the use of this for a certain amount of time. We gave every privilege right we had as far as the investment company was concerned to that nonprofit organization.
So you still thinking 10 months or how many months? No? Okay.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Bright.
I wish King Solomon were here today. To me, though, even if you're paying rent, the Moose Lodge was not trying to stuff their pockets with cash on the deal. I don't think they were a nonprofit, and they had expenses to pay, heat, light, whatever, security, maintenance on the building, and so it was still being nonprofit, even though a different nonprofit was renting it from them. I guess the part that I don't fully get is the investment firm that was an intermediary there in between the Moose Lodge and the church, because if you're a corporation and not a nonprofit corporation, then you lose that status, it would seem to me. And then the quitclaim part, again, seems like a way to, I think we had one some years back with the Reunification Church, where a fellow quitclaimed his house to the church and lived there as a nonprofit residents of the Reunification Church, and so that challenged our conception of what should be exempt. And I'm not really sure if I've made a decision on this. I think perhaps deferring and continuing to discuss with council might be something we should do.
And I think
Motion to defer for a week.
I'll second that, because I would like to see, like I said, just when the rent was paid, when the transfers were made, all those different things, I would like to see that information. And is a week enough for, Carol's not in here, for staff to get all those things together? Can we defer it for 2 weeks just to make sure that they've got a chance to get everything together? Is
I
that a
think
problem, or
I'm
you
here
want-
that week. Yes, I'll make that, amend my motion to 2 weeks.
And I would second for 2 weeks, just so we can make sure we get all the information together.
I believe we have a motion and a second to defer for 2 weeks. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Okay.
I might have to skip that meeting, but
Is there anything I should bring? Do I need to do between now and the 2 weeks?
Our staff will be in contact with you.
Fair enough. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you coming this morning. And all right. Well, I think some of the next ones are a little bit easier, possibly. So that takes us to item 12, to consider an application for a consume and blend alcohol beverage license for a fundraising event on May 24th, 2017 at the Arboretum. Good morning.
Good
Lori.
morning. Thank you very much for allowing me to apply for this. Yes, I hope mine is much easier. It's been an interesting morning today.
Do you just want to identify yourself? And
My
give
name
your
is
address?
Lori Kiso, and I'm the director of the Mary Jo Wagner Arboretum. Our fundraising event will be our 6th annual May event, and it will be held on May 24th out at the Arboretum.
So this is for an application for just a consume and blend license, so it's not a public hearing. So I'd entertain a motion on this item, or Commissioner Kursky?
Usually I blend, then I consume. I'm just curious about the wording. so.
Either.
Oh, okay.
I prefer single malts to blends, but
Yeah, okay.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you for
Thank you
coming
all,
this morning.
commissioners.
Good luck in your
Appreciate it.
event.
Thank you.
All right, that takes us to item 13. Entertain a motion to authorize the chair to sign an updated agreement between Minnehaha County and Barry Dunn, McNeil, and Parker. And I believe Monty has explanation of this for us.
Good morning, Commissioners. Monty Waddenbach with Minnehaha County IT. I hope I have another easy decision for you. So the agreement that was signed last week by the Commission, the memo that I included had the full price. The agreement had the price for the consulting services, but not the travel. So as we discussed that, we agreed that it should come back for formal approval. So,
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Do
Thank
not-
you so much.
Do not change it again. No, just kidding. This is 3 weeks.
Promise.
That's funny.
Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to item 14, and that's to authorize the chair to sign a research and services agreement between the University of South Dakota and Minnehaha County for the analysis of the physical facilities for the Minnehaha County campus master planning. Carol.
Good morning, Commissioners. Carol Muller, Commission Administrative Officer. Last year, the Commissioners directed our office to identify opportunities for campus master planning. The goal of master planning is to determine direction for current and immediate future space utilization, facility and campus department layout, along with future building needs. We're able to connect with Dr. Dan Tracy, Dr. Benjamin George, and Thomas Martin from the University of South Dakota. This project will be a collaboration between Minnehaha County and the Beacom School of Business at USD. You have attached in front of you a scope of work which details out the research and recommendations to be completed by the USD team. The team will include surveys of department heads along with interviews with commissioners, elected officials, and department heads. The project is to be completed no later than June 1, 2017, with a cost not to exceed $70,000. The final bill will be based upon the actual hours that are used by the people who are doing the project. Questions I can answer for you?
I know we've had an opportunity to review this in our building committee. So if there aren't any questions, I'd entertain a motion.
I just would make a comment that this is taking too long. We need to, this should have been done a year ago or 3 years ago. And if we're going to spend $70,000 on it, I hope we get something of value. I'll make a motion to move forward with this and have the chair sign it.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further comments? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. And that takes us to item 15. We have a briefing by Cindy Dannenbrink from Interlakes Community Action Partnership. Thank you for coming this morning. Just want to identify yourself with name and address. That'd be great.
Sure.
Thanks.
I'm Cindy Dannenbrink. I'm the Executive Director of Interlakes Community Action, and my home address is Wentworth, South Dakota. Interlakes Community Action does serve 14 counties here in eastern South Dakota, including Minnehaha County. You have information I believe, in front of you, showing, there you go, showing the services that we offer and that we offered in the year 2015 to 2016. The first part of that document talks about some numbers that you all are probably very familiar with, the population of the county, and the fact that 11.7% of the population fall within the poverty level, or 20,594 people. So as you look at the services that we've offered, weatherization, where we go into homes and generally, I would say all of these services are to low-income families. So weatherization, we provided services to 42 homes and replaced 78 furnaces. And that's in homeowners, not renters. 140 children. We have an early Head Start Child Development Center, and 140 children and their families were served there. We have a home-based Head Start program where 17 kids were served. I'm just going to highlight a few things on here because I don't want to take a lot of your time. We helped 45 families with security deposit assistance to move into permanent housing. And these housing programs are about homeless families and homeless families with children. 28 families received the first month rent and deposit. 119 families utility assistance. Then we get into our transitional housing services. We have Heartland House. As you know, you support that program, and we very much appreciate the support that you provide for the Heartland House program. In the last year, we helped 88 homeless families with children through the Heartland House program. Because of the Heartland House program and the success of the Heartland House program, the City of Sioux Falls Community Development Department chose to use some of their community development block grant funds to assist us in a look-alike program called Bright Futures. And through the Bright Futures program, then we were able to help 77 families. There are some changes happening with those programs that I'd like to share with you. We work with HUD. HUD is the federal funder of this program, and that funding has stayed pretty stable over the years here. So any additional costs or any expanded services to families has to be driven by local funds. But also beyond that, HUD has also decided that a better way to address homelessness and to assist homeless families to become self-sufficient is through rapid rehousing rather than transitional housing. So what that really means is with transitional housing, the families would live at Heartland House for up to 2 years based on their needs. Then we would transition them into permanent housing. They would need to leave the facility. With rapid rehousing, they're able to stay. That's really the biggest difference in the two programs. It's also been proven that to move families more quickly through the system will offer, of course, that we can help more families, but it's also makes for a more successful family if they don't get quite so ingrained into receiving that subsidy. So our goal is to reduce the amount of time that family is in our program. It's still called Heartland House, but down to between 6 and 12 months will be our goal for that family. When that family comes in, we will immediately start working with them on how they will exit the subsidy. So through all the case management will still stay the same. They will be working on continually looking at how to exit the program. In addition to that change, we are at Interlakes Community Action acquiring more apartment units. So I don't know if you're familiar with Cumberland Apartments up on North 4th Avenue. We have owned the middle building, and we've offered Heartland House services there. But we've been successful in acquiring tax credits to acquire the outside two buildings. So we will be expanding our ownership of property here in Sioux Falls by an additional 42 units through the tax credit program. That acquisition also entails incorporating the middle building, so we will be doing a significant rehab project on all 3 buildings. So it's an acquisition rehab. We anticipate starting about the middle of April. That will mean that ICAP will have a total of 86 apartments here in Sioux Falls to be used for affordable housing with supportive services for homeless families with children. So I just wanted to also fill you in on some updates that's happening with us. Again, I don't want to take a lot of your time. I just like to come every couple years just to touch base with you. You're so good to us in not only the funding, but in allowing Jeff and then now Dean to serve on our board, and they've been such active members, and I anticipate Dean will be as well. So if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Dean, Commissioner Karski.
Yeah, just comments. Thank you for coming, Cindy. I know it was at my request, and I appreciate you showing the relevance of what ICAP does. And I think there's 4 other organizations just like it in the state, right?
There's a total of 4 in South Dakota.
Total of 4,
Yep.
okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
An amazing board, 40-some members?
42 members.
42 members, and the number of lives that it touches, and you can just hear, the need in Sioux Falls obviously is great in Minnehaha County, so just thank you for coming and putting a face to ICAP for us, and I am looking forward to being involved in the group and in the board, so thank you for your hard work, and I know you've been in that position for a few years.
Oh, yeah, just a few.
Just a few.
I started with Interlakes Community Action in a part-time summer position back in 1971. And so have progressed through the agency in different roles till in 1993, I became the executive director and have been since that time. We've done a lot of things at Interlakes Community Action, and it's not always the same because we follow the needs of the people and the changing needs of homeless families with children and other low-income people in the communities of our 14 counties. So thank you. Thank you for
Sure.
Yeah,
allowing
Commissioner
me to
Barth?
come.
Cindy, you have a pending fundraiser again for the
We
Heartland
do.
House. We've not bought a table. What do they cost, and how come we didn't buy a table?
I think $600 for a table.
And that's higher than it used to be, right?
Yep. Our committee members thought that, we had it the same for many years, that it went up.
What's the date on that?
April 6th.
Is it too late?
Pardon me?
Is it too late to buy a ticket?
No.
What would individual tickets cost?
Boy, Jeff, I don't know what that is.
Okay, well, I think we've gone like 7 years in a row. And I don't know, I think we should consider going again. Jean, you've been there. And
Ben, it's a wonderful event, yes. Mm-hmm.
Scott Anderson, he's been there. Anyway, I'll talk to see what we can do.
I appreciate that, Jeff. At the event, we recognize a family who has been successful in the Heartland House program, and it's quite moving for that family to receive that recognition. They work hard to come out of homelessness to be self-sufficient. So,
All right, well, thank you.
thank you.
We'll leave it to Commissioner Barth to twist the arms after the meeting's over here, so. All right, thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to item 16, liaison reports. Are there any liaison reports today? Commissioner Karski?
I met with Carrie Benz and Lori Montez with Human Services, and I asked Commissioner Heiberger to assist us in reviewing the funeral director's contract, so we're going to be working on that before budgeting, so just to let you know.
Great.
I'm doing my thing.
Anyone else? Commissioner Barth?
Last night, Planning and Zoning had their monthly meeting, and we had 3 different meetings in about 45 minutes. The first was joint with Del Rapids, then joint with Sioux Falls and our own. But the joint with Del Rapids, there was only one item on the list, and it was to exceed the 1,200 square foot limitation on a accessory building, and it was for a 1,296 square foot building. So here we had, 5 members, 4 board members and the city finance officer down from Del Rapids for 96 square foot difference. Anyway, so they suggested that we make larger buildings acceptable, and we said, give us a number. Then at the end of our meeting with the city, I asked them, if the City of Sioux Falls, I asked them if they wanted to exceed it. They didn't think so, but they're going to think about it. And we also approved a hog operation west of Colton without objection from anyone. There were 2 neighbors within the setback area. They both signed waivers.
Great. Thank you. Any other liaison reports? If not, that takes us to item 17, new business. Any new business?
Madam
Commissioner
Chair,
Barth.
Commissioner Karski has put new business and old business onto the city agenda. When we meet jointly with them in the past, the city has never had it on their agenda for any further discussion. So we address whatever singular issue that was facing us, and then we adjourn. And so we never had a chance to brainstorm about other issues facing us. And so on tonight's agenda, doesn't mean we have to talk about anything, although who knows, I might come up with something. But it gives us some latitude there, which we didn't have before.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean.
It was Jeff's idea. I just asked to have it included, so I knew who to call, so.
Okay. Any old business? Lynn DeYoung.
Commissioners, Lynn Young, Emergency Management. Yesterday, Commissioner Bender reached out and asked if I could quick give a briefing on the South Dakota Public Safety Communications Council notice that you should have received yesterday. And I don't know if you can get the Elmo to work or not, but if you can, we'll start on that. So, as you know, this last legislative session, Senator Peters, along with Senator Nabishia and some of the other senators and folks, sponsored Senate Bill 171, which would update the state radio system over a series of years to make it P25 compliant. That ultimately failed as a result of budgetary needs at the state of South Dakota. So what the State Communications Council, if you can zoom in, ended up coming up with was a working document to guide stakeholders at the local level. If we can zoom in. Maybe drifting out and everything. Okay. Anyway, so they came up with a document. You should have saw it yesterday. And what it does is it tries to lead us through the next transition, which is conversion to P25 from now until 2023. So one of the things that we need to look at, or the commission needs to look at, is the amount of radios that we have currently in the sheriff's office. They have approximately 36 mobile radios and 68 portable radios that would need to be updated to the cost of approximately $340,000. In my office, we have 10 mobiles and 50 portables, which is $195,000. So we could just update those radios, and we'd be P25 compliant tomorrow, or we could purchase at the price of $600 a chip that goes in our radios, and then come 2023, we just reprogram it, and then we would be compliant that way. The problem with that option, and the sheriff and I have talked about it, is the fact that the radios are already 15 years old, and by the time we get to 2023, will that radio be even operational? So we've kind of thrown that option out and saying, listen, it's probably not the best to do it. That's probably good. We can go here. So most of our radios, as you see, are the XTL, XTS versions down here. You're going the wrong direction. So they can be, like I said, upgraded until 2017. We can buy the chip before Christmas and then put the chip on the shelf, save it, and go from there. Like I said, the sheriff and I have talked, and we don't think that that's the best option. So what we think the best option, or at least is to utilize the current radios that we have, to place in funds within the budget to replace radios as they break. So in the next year or so, you might see a radio budget in the sheriff's office or my office at about $10,000 that would replace any radio that breaks. Coming up to 2023, we would need to develop a plan on what happens then. And keep in mind, within our agencies, we have about $550,000 in need, and then the highway department would also have another, I'll get it here, $150,000 worth of need, but because of the funding stream, those are two totally different discussions. So that come 2023, we would have a plan to replace our radios. Now, one of the things you'll see is the radios that we have here, the XTL, XTSs, they're gonna go, so their support will be discontinued as far as new parts. They're gonna stop manufacturing new parts in 12/31/18 and 12/31/19. But we think because of the reliability and with the fact that if you gave, each of us, like I said, a $10,000 kind of placeholder, as the radio repairs, fails, we'd one-to-one change it. We haven't seen a ton of that yet, but those are some dates out there. We're starting to purchase the APX radios. Those radios have already been on the market for about 5 years. Motorola says they've got another 10 years. What'll happen in that point is they'll come out with another radio, most likely before 2023. So we'll want to purchase the newest radio so we get the extended life. So there's going to need to be some transitioning, some kind of playing the way that things happen, working with the state. The other thing that I'm not super confident on is we've had this date of 2023. In the past, what we've seen happen with technology projects such as this, other 911s, is the implementation date starts at 2023 and then it gets pushed back a little. So I think there'll be a little pushback. I'm not entirely confident that it'll be that long, but at least we have a date, so that's good. So going forward, last week I had a discussion with Kim downstairs in the auditor's office, and most likely we'll have further discussions, but we'll probably be bringing forward at some point a plan of putting a capital accumulation fund together and putting about $75,000 to $100,000 in that fund, so that in 2023 it's significant enough so that we'll probably need to come to the commission at that point and purchase a large amount of radios. So that's the working idea that just started last week, because remember we just saw this document last week, but at least it gives us something to work on in the future.
Are there any questions for Lynn? Commissioner Barth.
Lynn, is there any opportunity for Homeland Security grants these days on this kind of issue?
Yep. So we continue to work those grants and everything. What we know today is last year's money is secure. There's a new way of formulating that. The sheriff and I will be actually at a prioritization meeting tomorrow. If you remember, that's where $500,000 came from last year for the Zerker Public Safety Project. So because we got a large amount last year, I'm not very confident that we'll get a large amount this year, because we work with our other partners, including McCook, Lake, Turner, Lincoln, Clay, and Union. So we work with those other partners. So I'm not confident there'll be a large amount for radios this year. And what we've already seen in the federal budget discussions is that many of the Homeland Security programs will be seeing many differences than what we have in the past. So to come out and say they're going to be available, can't do that today because that's all based on the federal priorities. So this is, like I said, I think all of those programs will be changing. One thing we did see that has a potential to work for us is that they would still have a program, but use a 25% match. So 25% local, 75% federal, but once again, we don't know how all that's going to come together under the new federal administration. So We'll continue to work those programs, but that being said, I still think you need to take a look at some of the other long-term funding options when we get to the budget cycle.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the fact that you guys have been talking and trying to,
And just, we also communicate with rural fire and EMS. We'll be talking with rural EMS tomorrow. But last week at the rural fire meeting, I told them basically the same thing: is start accumulating cash or other financial means so that in 2023 you have the ability to purchase. Because even for them, some of the rural agencies have upward of $200,000 in expenses for radio communications also.
Commissioner Heiberger.
Since you're looking at options, and Motorola had offered a contracted deal to the state, and the state turned him down. Is there a possibility of, if the state doesn't come through with money, which I'm not going to count on that counties can get together and come up with their own deal with Motorola in 2023 or something? Because obviously Minnehaha County is going to be buying a lot of radios between the highway department and us. And there, like you say, there's other counties out there. If we went with Lincoln County, a few other ones, would Motorola be willing to work with us if the state isn't willing to take care of the responsibilities for the state?
So that would be something that we would have to explore to see, on a significant purchase, would they? Already the radios that we're using are on state bid, so I'm not sure if they would come down from the state bid pricing. But that's something that we'll start exploring because of the significance of the purchase in the future.
Okay.
Madam Chair, being as we still have Senator Nesba present here on the Appropriations Committee, maybe we could ask him where we're going to go on the state radio, if I may.
Yeah, good luck.
Run, Senator.
And this was my first year in the state legislature, so I did with Senator Peters. We did co-sponsor a piece of legislation that asked for $21 million over the next 7 years to get the conversation started, and that did get the conversation started, and the bill died a quick death at the Appropriations Committee because we didn't have money for very much of anything this year. So, but this is one of the issues that, as a Democrat in Pierre, I don't always feel like I have much power, but one of the things I did is I asked enough questions about this, is that we did have a special hearing on appropriations just about the state radio, and finding out that Motorola had notified the state back in November about this, and that I was surprised that the governor had not done anything in his own budget request to put anything in there in advance of this. So I'm glad that the county is taking action. So don't count on the state. That's a wise move on your part, but you probably all have a lot more experience with that than I do. So, but please know, I'm really, this is one of those, I'm curious about a variety of things, and this is one of those issues that really did catch my mind, and I want to catch Glenn before he leaves the room here, because I do want to have a better understanding with this, and hope we can keep this conversation going between the county and the state, because it is amazing how expensive these radios are, and keeping the system overall up and doing the upgrade. And one of the problems statewide is putting up a few more towers, because we have places in the state that emergency personnel where the radios still they just don't work because of geography. And so the state's going to have to spend some money on that too. So thanks.
Commissioner Heiberger?
Yeah. Just a comment. For people who don't really understand what this is that these are the 911 radios. And so if there was a natural disaster or a 9/11 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and we didn't have radios that worked together, you wouldn't have your fire department or emergency management or anything speaking, which this has happened in the past. That's why there is a state radio system. And like Senator said, there's areas in South Dakota that if you had an accident there, they can't get 911 help because the state doesn't have the towers in all the areas. If this system goes down, I don't think it would happen, but I mean, the worst case scenario would be, how are we speaking to each other in a natural disaster or in a terrorist, or any kind of disaster? A plane goes down, and if your emergency responders cannot communicate with each other, we'd have a huge mess. And at this point, it's being left to the counties to pick up the pieces, and this is a state issue as far as if all the counties don't work together, it doesn't work. So, anyway.
Right. And so we need that communication. Please be in communication with your other state representatives and senators as well. Representative Dan Allers also serves, from Del Rapids, also serves on appropriations with me and was also very excited and concerned about this issue. And we do need to be forward thinking about it. One of the reasons we got this dual state radio system coming together, my understanding, is it took Spencer Tornado and Governor Janklow to get really upset about it and decided that we needed unified ways. So we don't want another Spencer Tornado to solve this problem. Let's take care of it ahead of time.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lynn?
Dean has got.
Oh, I'm sorry. Commissioner
Yeah,
Karski.
question for Lynn, or question, comment, observation. So the $600 is per radio, I'm assuming.
Yep.
So we're trying to find that sweet spot between how many radios can we patch and how many are we going to have to replace between 2023. Is that what you're telling us? Or?
Yeah, and like I said, that's why I'm recommending that in the budget discussion for next year we get about $10,000 because these are, and the deputy has a radio on his hip. They're pretty reliable, actually very reliable, and that's why we're saying is we think, or at least I think, we can get through replacing the ones that go out of repair because once again we're in the kind of a perfect maybe manufactured storm by Motorola where their own products, they're not making spare parts for these after 2019 and 2018, so why would we if there's no spare parts, why would we buy the chip to make it work in 2023? And at the same point, we know with the history of Motorola, their latest version, this APX, is 5 years old. So most likely, by the time we get to 2022 or early 2023, they'll have a ZR12 or some other brand name that they've given it. So we might as well purchase that one as we go and then extend that lifespan out. So if we've got to make a $500,000 expenditure for whatever commissions here in 2023, we might as well make it a long term instead of doing something today and in 2028 having it out of date. So it really is a lot of moving targets like you're familiar with doing other building projects with and technologies. So, I mean, if I could just make one comment, I appreciate what the senator said and the state looking at it. The problem with the upgrade at this point, it was $21 million, and then we would have gotten all of the updates, all of these other things for all of the users, increase that coverage, increase our responsibility. As a result of that bill not going through, the expected cost, and you saw this on the state did an interim study last year, so if you don't if you don't repair your roof at the $21 million, repair it at the $21 million for the radio system, which the state chose not to do, that automatically, if you want to do the same work, would have jumped it to $75 million. So it's really a $500 repair today, $500,000 repair tomorrow. So sometimes it's a difficult decision to work with on your side of the bench. So.
All right.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
We'll be talking about this a ton in the future. So,
Madam Chair, I just make the comment that doubling the excise tax on alcohol would bring in an additional $14 million a year, and I think that would be a logical thing to do. I won't stop drinking.
All right, any more old business? If not, I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss contracts, personnel, and litigation.
That's my motion.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone who came this morning.
Thank you.